Turn it on or off?
Nope.
Okay, now we're on. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, good. Okay, let's start with meditation. So take a deep breath in. Take your attention below your belly button. As my friend Mika Karu says, home base, safe place. Yellow like the sun below your belly button. And allow all the thoughts in your mind to just be there while you put your attention below your belly button. Energy follows attention, so take it out of your mind and put your attention deep in your belly. Breathe into that space. Home base, safe place. Now drop your attention all the way to the center of the earth. As we connect deeply to that which nourishes us, Mother Earth. Feel for your gratitude. However low you can go, don't worry. It's all fine. Over time, you'll feel more and more. Now gently bring your attention to your solar plexus. Breathe into this space and ask it to release. You may feel some restriction there. A lot of us have had some intensity recently that can cause some constriction. Now take your attention and your energy into your heart center in the middle of your chest. Then into your throat center. And now we'll do 3 times of the Om sound. Ooh, as we usually do, singing. And use whatever notes are appropriate to your voice to open your central channel. Take a deep breath in, start at the root chakra, and bring the energy out the top of your head as we sing. Om. Now feel into the space between the breaths. As you feel ready, gently open your eyes a crack, holding your attention inside. Gradually open and allow yourself to perceive the outer world while your attention remains inside. We wish to state the intention for this meeting to serve the highest best for any and all who participate in any way. May we be a source of truth and benefit for all. We welcome your questions. And they can really be about anything. They don't have to be particularly personally revealing. There's lots of information and we all have the same questions. So whatever you ask will be helpful, not just to you, but everyone else. But we wish to be relevant to what serves you. This doesn't mean we shy away from any personal questions. They're totally welcome. They're really the meat of your own work. We're just thinking that meat is a very carnivore metaphor, that maybe we should say beans and portobello mushrooms. How may we serve? Yes.
Talk about actually not with myself, but also many people I deal with it. When there's a obsessive thought pattern, whether it be something sadness that just won't go. Despite doing all the right things. How do you deal with that?
So the question is, when there's an obsessive thought pattern, and many, many, many of us have these deep obsessive thought patterns of unworthiness or, some other dark message that we constantly repeat that seems to be built into the hardware, the hard drive of our beingness, regardless of any self-help mantra, any activity we've done our entire lives. As we've been involved in spirituality, there still is this recurrent voice of, we'll just say, dis-ease, an unease in our mind that says we are not who we would wish to be. That seems hardwired. And so, how do we deal with that? That's the question. And our experience is that the more you resist this voice, the more you struggle with it, the louder it gets. So that's not exactly the way to relate to it that works. Just makes it more intense. It turns it into a battle. So what do we do? The first thing is we understand that there's a voice that's telling us something that's not true. It's not true. There is no one who is unworthy. There is no one who deserves self-hatred. Because with unworthiness and self-hatred, we can't change. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot with every thought. And so there was no energy to start to lift things up. So if we're going to respond to that voice, there's really only one thing we can say. And that is, I am innocent. We have done nothing to deserve that voice. It's something that came in with us for the most part, or we were told at a very young age that imprinted. What happens between the age of 0 and 7, we have no control over. And all kinds of things come in to our matrix of belief. And who knows what misunderstanding would cause us to repeat a message like that over and over, but many, many, many of us have it. Much of humanity. So you start by saying, I am innocent. And you feel the difference of how it feels to say that instead of what you've been repeating. And every time that comes up, you just say, I am innocent. And we imagine that that embracing of the I am innocent will make some difference. So instead of trying to suppress and deny this pattern that has been given, or even trying to understand where it came from, because that doesn't really go anywhere either. But if you say to yourself, your highest self, I am innocent. The truth of that statement will be felt throughout every cell in your body, and it will begin to make a huge change in the face of that message. Because your beingness understands the truth behind I am innocent, because you are embracing your natural innocence that was misled. Now we're saying that in this way because this is deeper than the emotions that come forward that we can say Ho'oponopono through to our highest self. Those emotions are largely situational. But this is kind of a deeper hardwired voice that has no connection to experience that we can remember or capture, or it's just like something that comes for no reason. And those of you who experience it will know exactly what we're talking about. And those of you who don't feel blessed. I am innocent. There is no one who is worthy and no one who is unworthy. It's not about that. Knowing God, knowing yourself as source, is not in the same plane as worthiness or unworthiness. You cannot earn your way or forfeit your way to the truth. It is the birthright of being human to know love at its source. That love is innocent. Does that answer the question?
Yes, part of it.
No, please.
Sense of self-worth is great, but I was also thinking of, someone I know whose dog died 5 years ago, and it's as if the dog died yesterday. And there's no resolution. They don't respond to homeopathy. So there's just, it's kind of a
Has the person been able to identify the feeling that is
everything that was love and life for them, the connection and God in a life when that
so Andrew's talking about a person whose dog died, and when this happened, everything of love in their life disappeared, just gone. Connection to God, connection to love, connection to everything. The first thing we would say with this is to explain that the love for the dog doesn't die. that presence of love, there is no separation with death. And see if the person can begin to feel that connection again. And yes, this is a moment where faith is required. A moment. It only takes a moment to allow love in. In our lives, we are either opening to love or we are resisting love. The love itself is always there to be had by anyone who wants to drink from that well. It does require a moment of faith, a moment of allowing to have that experience or to regain that experience. Without love, none of us would exist. If we were truly separate, we would be dead. So our task is always regaining the perception, the experience of what is always there. That which doesn't die. Love once shared lives on. And you'll notice that when paying attention to the love, most of the other stuff disappears. I think it was Yogananda who said we are either embracing love or resisting love. Allowing love or denying love. Same. Being love or something else. Really, the understanding is that what we are is not transient. We are not the body. The body comes and goes. We are not the mind. It can change on a dime. We are not our feelings. They're often mercurial. We are that which does not come and go. That space between the breaths is the entryway. Does that serve? How may we serve further? Yes. Brenda, anything? Yes.
I also have any suggestions about, it seems to me that when we sleep is a huge part of our sort of important to be in a certain state, and what can one do before you go to sleep that optimize experience of sleep state.
So the question is what to do before we sleep to optimize that sleep state. So here's what we suggest. First of all, If you have any worries that are nagging in the back of your mind, write them down and say, I'll see you tomorrow. Just let go of them. That way you've written them down so you know you won't forget. You don't have to carry them all night while you sleep. And you say, it's time for me to sleep now. And you feel for any other obstruction, especially those words that we talked about earlier, the endless loops of self injury that we do to ourselves. And so, one thing you can do, if that's the part of your practice that you're in right now, is to say, and sometimes circumstances bring these things too. So, if we can just say, I am innocent, and repeat that as we fall asleep and go into our innocence, that can be helpful. If there's nothing particular bothering us, then we go to gratitude. And that's also appropriate when we're saying, I am innocent, and that sense of heaviness dissipates, then we can go to gratitude. And just feel the gratitude and expand that in your beingness. And then there are those who feel they need protection in sleep because there is a letting go in sleep. So you understand and can participate in the experience of a natural protection in our field, which exists, which is semi-permeable. It allows in that which serves and keeps out that which doesn't. So we contact that part of ourselves and feel our deep security in the awareness of that. So that there's a deep, deep sense of comfort. Rebecca read somewhere that there are two kinds of people. There are ones that feel that the earth is a safe place, and ones that feel that the earth is a place that's going to harm them. And it's possible that we all go back and forth or identify more greatly with one than the other. So if you say to yourself the words, I am safe, and it feels like a lie, then you invite the fear. You allow yourself to feel the fear. And you say, Ho'oponopono, through the fear to your highest. Thank you for showing me this fear. I'm sorry this fear is keeping me from the awareness of my highest. I love you, my highest. We think the definition of faith today is allowing the love in. It's also allowing the love out. It's what we are. Love is not in or out, it just is. Sometimes we're too tired to do these things. That's okay. Deep breath, release everything that doesn't serve on the breath, and just allow the sleep to come. And you don't need to wait for the moment before sleep to do these practices. You can do them anytime that you think of them and have a few minutes. This is the work that allows us to meditate, that allows us to sleep, that allows us to be in contact with our own deepest self with a capital S. How may we serve further? Is that Andrew said? We know this is a difficult time for sleep for many. A lot of it is that there's agitation, fiery energy, aggravation, discord. It's in the environment. And the way to look at these periods is contrast. The periods where it's easy, we don't seem to notice so much. When it's hard, we notice. And easy and hard is different for different ones of us because our filters are all kind of geared differently. Our blueprint is what gives our filters. And since we each have a different blueprint, we each have different filters. So we learn through both contrast. Well, we learn through contrast the easy times and the hard times. In the easy times, we assimilate what we learned from the hard times. And in the hard times, we bring what we cultivated in the easy times to serve until we reach the place in ourselves where the easy times and the hard times begin to be perceived as just times. That's equanimity. And part of the understanding is that life is not, the intention is not to harm us. But to bring us to the highest awareness. If we look at our experience carefully, there's probably not one person here who can't say that their most difficult experiences were also the experiences that they grew from the most as a human being. The experiences that changed them in ways that turned out to be gifts. When we understand that that contrast leads to our personal growth, none of us seek that contrast, but when it happens, we can remind ourselves of the changes we've experienced in the past that turned out to be all for the good. In terms of our internal growth. We are speaking in terms of connecting to that highest. And looking at life from that perspective. For example, many of us have experienced the death of a parent, and no one would say that that's a good thing, or conversely, that it's a bad thing. It's not either of those. It is something that happens that changes our root system. And usually, if we allow it, it changes us for the better. Because we grow a lot as we take deeper responsibility for ourselves, as we understand life as finite. This particular life in this body, the body is finite. So it may cause us to begin to search for what is infinite. How may we serve further? Yes.
So the weight and cloud that I can't seem to lift is this fear of, I think the root is the fear of failure. And I'm finding it through procrastination of what I know I need to do. And when I ask myself why I'm not doing what I need to do, although I'm doing other things, I'm cleaning and cooking, which seems to be perfectly viable alternatives. However, I'm still not doing what I need to do. And it's this abject fear of it not being right or not being well, and then I get locked up in not knowing where and how to start. It's just, and this isn't unique to this scenario, but it's sort of something I carry around and really need to work hard against, and I'm not always succeeding, but I can logistically know I'm competent in so many areas that I'm being asked to perform on, but this fear is almost traumatizes me into not doing the work.
Well, it's very interesting, this idea of procrastination and what happens in the creative process.
Cooking,
Well, in the creative process, when there is some task, very often people, their creative process, they judge themselves and call it procrastination, when really what's happening is there is a deep inner process of creativity that is not quite finished. And so until the understanding from the inside has bubbled up about how it is to do this process, do this thing that you're doing, until that understanding is clear, there is a sense of paralysis that we call procrastination. But then to judge it, which calling it procrastination does, is to really make our creative process, it's like throwing a monkey wrench into it, because instead of allowing your creative process to just be and trusting that it's going to spit out exactly what you need at the right time, because it will finish in the right time, because you're on it. We know you well enough to know that you're on it. And so this is like not an understanding of how your creative process works, and acknowledging that this is actually what happens because you've been through it so many times, can help that process to actually have a different kind of flow, because there isn't this, stop start energy that you're putting the judgment into it. If you take the judgment out of it and just say, this is my process, that I have to sit with things for a while before they gestate and are ready to be birthed into the piece of paper that is the accomplishment. If you respect the process and allow it to happen, and then enjoy the cooking and the cleaning, and because you're in your process and it's doing it, and when it's time to sit down and do the thing, you will do it, and something magical will come out. It always does. It has never failed you. Is that right?
yeah, well, yeah, it's just and also it needs to be right. And I guess in the fear of failure is also the fear of rejection in it not being well received. And I know I can't control for that, because
You absolutely cannot. And you can't control for whether or not something will be received well. You can only do the best you can do. And trust that you will end up where you're supposed to end up at the result of this whole process of whatever change you're going through, that it is to draw you into something that will serve your life in this particular time. And the fact that you can't see it is just to be accepted. And in a way, if you can possibly enjoy the freedom of not having the same constrictions in your life, that you've been experiencing, if you can just enjoy the freedom and allow it, knowing that everything changes, and when it's time for the new thing will appear. And of course, the timeline is never something we get to choose. And that's unsettling. But the creative process is something to be understood and enjoyed. And we each have a slightly different creative process. But many, many people who are creative with language, and really in any creative art, there is a process of internal work that doesn't exactly demand our participation in terms of our mind engaging. Our mind engaging in that stage actually slows the process. And so if we can release and allow the, there's an initial thought process where we take in what's needed. And then there's a process where we formulate inside what the response will be. And not all of that is conscious. And then there's this miracle that happens and it just flows out. And so many people in their creative process, Rebecca's one of them. There is no paper she ever wrote in an academic setting that didn't happen the night before until it was finished. Never did it happen in any other way. And there was this huge label of procrastination always because of a misunderstanding of creative process.
Okay. That's it right there.
Many people, their creative process happens like that.
So now it's just moving into the acceptance versus the consistent judging of I'm not getting this done.
Right.
And I sat in front of a computer all day yesterday on a beautiful Saturday and
Did nothing.
did not much, but making deals with myself. Okay, just put 4 more sentences down and then you can go do X.
Yeah, when it's like that, the creative process just hasn't finished. But you have to trust that, your awareness and the creative process are in sync with time.
Yeah. Okay.
And now you can deliver things with the push of a button to meet the deadline. You don't have to run across campus and slide something under a door at the last minute. Creative process is a wonderful thing. And it takes a lot of experience to understand how ours works, to the point where we can get out of the way of it. How may we serve? Did that? We're so happy to be here. What an amazing day. Yes.
So, for years, we have called what you described creative procrastination. And it has resulted in small cases like waiting to get more chickens, and then somebody needs to give their chickens away. We thought we were procrastinating, but evidently not. We were just unknowingly waiting for the right time and the universe to help with the process. Okay, so we have a huge problem because this is the longest place, the longest time we've ever lived in one place. We've lived here for over 30 years. And in the past, when we'd move, we'd go through everything and, discard or pass along or whatever. And now it's just piled up in every outbuilding, in the garage, in the carport, everywhere, attic, closets. We could call ourselves hoarders if we wished to, do that. The living spaces look okay, but everything's stuffed. And it's no longer feeling like creative procrastination. It feels as though the time will never come. We're getting old. It's going to be it's too much for us to handle now. And so we feel blocked, would you say?
I've been there, yeah.
Feel blocked, good intentions that never manifest. Anyway, so I know there are lots of people who have that. I won't name names, but our family is like that. We don't want to throw away anything that's perfectly good. And so, or even if it's not perfectly good, it's just, maybe come in handy. And anyway, so the creative process has been seemingly blocked in this case. And I feel as though now the procrastination is no longer creative.
I can't come over and clean.
So there are a few ways to get this moving. So, of course, the easiest way to get it moving is to hire somebody to come for an hour a week and just help you organize the process or even do it for you, depending on how much you can afford. Somebody can come and clean out a space, and the only thing required for you to do is decide that you have two piles. One is to go to Goodwill, and the other one is to throw away. And if there's any closet that you haven't touched for a year, then those are probably things you don't need. So you don't even have to participate in the process if you hire somebody else to do it. And generally, I don't know, 5 years ago, to hire somebody was like $30 an hour. So if you hire somebody for a day and they do a huge amount for you, because the people who do this are good at it. They are really good at it. They're just this pile, that pile, this pile, that pile, this pile, that. They have no attachment to any of it. But they do know when they run into something valuable, when to ask you. And so that's the kind of person you want. And we know a couple of those that we could recommend. Don't know what their rate is at this point, but but that's a way to get started. And then you can kind of learn how that person does it if you can stand to watch. And so there is a learning process because this is a habit. This is a family tradition that has been passed down, that things are more valuable than flow in the environment. That's a belief system. So you can bring forth that belief system, that having things that you might one day use, which clearly has not been a day in the past year, maybe the past two, that maybe you can reevaluate that belief system and begin to project into the future what it would feel like to have an environment free of clutter. And then there are books out there too, I'm sure people on this call know the names of the decluttering books. We don't have them toward the surface. What's the name of that woman, Brenda?
One that says does it bring you joy?
Yes, where you pick up everything and you say, does this bring me joy? And if the answer is no, it goes. And if the answer is yes, it stays.
You feel the energy of it.
Yeah, and you feel into the energy of each particular article.
She has a podcast too.
Yeah, Brenda knows this person. I think she's Japanese. Is that? Yeah.
It's Marie Kondo.
Yes, you know. Oh, so you've already been there.
Oh, yeah.
So
My folder is cluttered with articles on decluttering.
so it's the contemplation, that the circular contemplation, that's really sustaining the pattern. So if you could just decide on 1 hour of doing a week, you decide on it, you write it down, you both do it. 1 hour, one space. You don't get distracted and go to 2 spaces. You just do one, you concentrate on it, you do everything you can do in an hour. That's all, that's all, that's all. And you come back and tell us what happened. Good. You're totally welcome. So unless there's somebody else, we would be happy to answer another question, but somehow we have arrived at meditation time. So take your attention inside. We will be doing transmission during this time. However you want to receive is completely up to you. We're so, so happy to be with you. We love this. Thank you so much for coming today. Such a pleasure to be with you. We dedicate this to the highest best for all. Till next time.